Hey guys, it's Vex. I'm here with another video. This is about a composition I made or theorycrafted. It seems to be one of the more powerful lists out there right now. Um, so if you watch my tier list, you'll notice that almost all of these units are towards the top of the tier list, and I believe that's partially because this list is so strong. Before I get into it, a couple disclaimers. This is all about maxed stats for a mercenary, so their abilities being maxed, their equipment being maxed, and their level being maxed, which won't happen for a while after release, but um, I'm still gonna build towards that. So this is everyone's max base attack and health, and then this is all their maxed abilities and equipment next to it. So just a disclaimer for that. And also the stars next to someone means they're the opener for the comp, like you put them out first. So with this comp you'd put Vol'jin, Cariel, and Sylvanas as your first three. So yeah, that being said, let's just get right into it. Cariel, let's talk about first because she's a pretty core part of this comp. She has the taunt turn 1. She has the Tome of Light, so she has more attack while she's taunted. She's gonna be really annoying for a lot of attacking teams to get through. 18 attack, 76 or 67 health, sorry. 67 health isn't the most, but it's a protector, so it's really good against units like Thrall and Samuro. It'll fend them off pretty well. Um, you have 18 retaliation damage, and when enemies are attacking twice, that can rack up really quick. The one like counter to that, I guess you could say, is like Zarella, reducing her attack. But even then, I think Sylvanas does a good enough job at dealing with Zarella to where that's not too much of a problem. So yeah, Cariel, she has the taunt turn 1, and then turn 2, the Seal of Light is amazing on Sylvanas if she's still alive. If she's not, you can always Seal of Light herself or even taunt again and just heal more. It's also worth noting that Toma Light will give her attack with her taunt even while she's not using taunt. So let's say you use taunt turn 1, you're going to be taunted for 3 turns. That means you have plus 8 attack for 3 turns, as long as you're taunted. Um, yeah, Cariel, pretty self-explanatory. That's why she's in the comp. She's a really good defensive option against attackers. The one like caveat to having her on your team is if you're against a full caster team, she doesn't do very much damage like Uther, like someone like Uther would. But it's not too big of an issue usually. This deck is really swingy. It has a lot of big turns where you're doing a lot of damage. So honestly, yeah, that's my opinion on Cariel in the comp. I think she's really good. You could run this comp with Uther and maybe drop Natalie for something else, but I prefer how it is now. Um, Next I'll go into Vol'jin because he's kind of the core of this comp. He has Ring of Haste, which increases all your shadow abilities by 3 speed. That is insane. I mean, almost this entire comp besides Cariel has shadow abilities and Tyrion, I guess. But those are later game things. Like you're mostly only gonna have Vol'jin alive while Sylvanas and Natalie and maybe Lich King are alive. So yeah, increasing all your stuff by 3, that's super powerful. Pretty self-explanatory why it's powerful. Speed is a big deal. If you can kill stuff before they can act, you're gonna probably win. Um, Next, Shadow Shock, deal 12 damage to an enemy. Its next ability is 5 speed slower. This is a 6 speed ability, but with Ring of Haste maxed, it's a 3 speed ability, so you can enable stuff like Samuro with it, which is actually really interesting. Not in this comp. You obviously don't run Samuro in this comp, but it's worth noting. And also, a 3 speed thing that makes someone 5 slower is super useful turn 1 when you're trying to just outvalue someone with all your damage. And potentially against certain teams it lets you kill some of their units turn 1. So yeah, it's a great ability. Shadow Surge is less used, but there's situations where it does a lot of damage and it's pretty easy to combo with Natalie, Sylvanas. You can even combo with Lich King if you're slowed on Vol'jin, which actually happens a lot against some of the simulated matches I've been running against stuff like Nature and just aggro decks in general. So yeah, Curse of Weakness is an amazing ability. Gives all enemies Shadow Weakness and deals 8 damage to them. So you're dealing 14 damage, and then you're giving basically all your other Shadow units 6 more damage that turn. Super powerful ability. 0 speed with Ring of Haste unless you're slowed. 3 speed naturally. It's just such a good ability. It usually enables Sylvanas to kill any caster on turn 2, especially if you give her attack with Cariel. Um, yeah, that's Vol'jin. He's pretty self-explanatory too. He just does a lot for a shadow comp, and there's not much work that needs to happen. The only thing I would say with Vol'jin is you have to make sure to keep him safe because he's very easy to pick off. He only has 65 max HP at max level. So yeah, he'll die pretty fast, but if you can keep him alive, you pretty much will win most games that you're playing in. Same with, it's the same concept as Uther. Like if Uther lives for too long in a comp, he'll just get too much value and just win outright. So yeah, that's Fulgen in the comp. Sylvanas is next. In this comp, I run Mournblade on Sylvanas, which gives her 5 base attack. It makes her do 14 damage as a fighter every turn at 1 speed with Fulgen, because it's a base 4 speed ability at max level. You're reducing that by 3. You're attacking for 14 as a fighter at 1 speed. It's just super powerful. You're gonna go for before almost anything. Um, Turn 2, Vol'jin will give Shadow Weakness at 0 speed, and then at 1 speed you're attacking for 20, and against casters that is going to be 40. It's just a lot of base damage. Reclaimed Souls is pretty non-usable if you're using her as an opener like I am, but honestly it doesn't matter too much. For the Queen you might be able to use it if Sylvanas stays alive for long enough, but mostly you're just going to be using Banshee Bolt, her base attack. It's just a really fast attack with Vol'jin, and even if Vol'jin's dead, 4 speed is really not that slow. So Sylvanas is like the main fighter DPS for this comp. You want to keep her alive too. Ideally, they have to kill Cariel, and if they don't and they ignore Cariel, it's fine for you. You just have to make sure to get the value out of Seal of Light. Otherwise, you're gonna fall behind pretty quickly. Um, Next is Natalie. Usually, she's your first fill after Cariel dies or after Sylvanas dies. Usually, you're gonna throw in Natalie to combo with the Vol'jin. Um, she has the Shadow Beam deals 16 damage until you use Anathema. Um, she also have Eye of Shadow, so it does 4 more damage. So you're dealing 20 a turn at 1 speed. Again, it's very similar to Sylvanas in that sense. 1 speed to do a big chunk of damage is super good. Light Beam, restore health. If you have Benediction, restore more health. You start out with Anathema, so this ability is not going to be used early on, but I've actually found a couple of cases where it's pretty good. Anathema obviously is the deal 14 to all enemies, which is a lot more than deal 14 usually because you have the Eye of Shadow, so it's deal 18. Then you have the Curse of Weakness, which is plus 6, so it's usually a 24 damage AoE. Um, 24 damage AoE at 3 speed is very solid, especially when you're doing a 14 AoE also. You're just dealing a lot of damage to the entire enemy comp. Once you use it, keep in mind that your Shadow Beam is going to be doing 6 less damage every single time you use it. So sometimes you want to use Light Beam after you use Anathema to heal Vol'jin back up if he's like he's savable. But most of the time you're just gonna spam Shadow Beam until you need to use Anathema. That's Natalie's role in the comp. She does a lot of damage. The healing can be sometimes necessary in certain matchups, but most of the time you're just gonna go for shadow damage with her. Um, don't fill with her if they have a lot of fighters. You just go with Lich King instead, which I'll talk about next. Lich King, you're gonna sub in if they have fighters because Cariel doesn't deal with them by herself. So you're gonna need Lich to counter them pretty much by himself. I say pretty much because you can still use Sylvanas to pretty good effect against fighters. She does a lot of damage still. And Tyrion. Tyrion can reduce their attack and also Blessing of Kings to scale past them. But yeah, with Lich King, you have Frostbite, so you can slow enemy comps by 5. With Frostmourne, you're cleaving to neighbors with that slow. So you're just slowing the entire enemy team by 5 every time he uses this, and it's a 5 speed attack, which is pretty solid. The only time this doesn't matter with Frostbite is if they have a taunt in the way, then you're not going to cleave to the entire team, but still you're slowing the taunt and someone next to him. So it's a pretty good ability. Death Coil is Shadow, so it combos with Vol'jin. It deals 18 damage as a protector, and that goes through taunt. So you're going to be dealing a lot of damage to fighters specifically. It's your main way with dealing with fighters with this comp. You're going to use it off cooldown as much as you can. It has a cooldown of 1, but you're going to sub him in from bench, so he'll always have it the first turn he comes out. Just use this and go between Frostbite and Frost Shield while you're waiting for its cooldown. Frost Shield is gain taunt. After an enemy attacks it, you freeze that taunt until the end of next turn. So basically, if they have an attacking comp and they attack into this Frost Shield, you're just going to gain so much time over them, and it's probably one of the best taunts in the game against like specific attacking comps. And that with the shadow ability and the frostbite just makes him really powerful in this comp. Uh, he's honestly like probably the best in this comp. Once he gets off bench, he's gonna do a lot of damage for you and do a lot of slowing, and yeah, he's super good in the comp. Last is Tyrion. Divine Assault, attack an enemy, and if you kill it, you gain Divine Shield on all your characters. This is slightly useful in some matchups. If you get like a caster pretty weak and you use that to finish off, you can give stuff like Lich King Shield because you're usually gonna have these on the board at a similar time. That's super helpful. Give a character +8/+8 in Divine Shield. And with King's Helmet also gives him +4/+4. It's good on almost anyone in the deck. Like even if you put it on Natalie or Vol'jin, it's fine. You're giving him Divine Shield and 8 health. It's like the attack is only really good for retaliation, but it doesn't matter. It's just so much overtime value that they're forced to deal with Tyrion as early as they can, and that's while they have the pressure of Lich King on them too. So yeah, that's like the basic idea for the comp. You're gonna want a pretty aggressive start with Sylvanas and Vol'jin, and then you can bring Natalie out really early to do a lot of damage and just wipe people. Or you can bring Lich King out if they have a lot of fighters, and you can play a slower game with Tyrion, and and usually Carrie will still be alive at that time if you're not bringing out Natalie. So yeah, um, you can pivot to like a slower game plan with this comp, but most of the time it's going to be just aggro, lots of damage. Um, besides like I said, Lich King and Tyrion can go late game pretty consistently, but you're gonna want to do the most damage you can early with these three. Um, Natalie does a lot of damage. So yeah, that's my idea for the comp. It seems to do really well against a lot of the popular comps in the Discord. We ran a lot of simulations. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you'd make any changes. I'd love to discuss it with some of you in the comments. And yeah, that's my idea. If you haven't joined the Discord, feel free to. Um, we make a lot of stuff like this. I'll probably make more of these comp videos. There's lots of comps that are standouts in the Discord. So yeah, thanks for watching. Later.